After successfully beating Dark Souls Remastered without dying, I quickly moved on to Dark Souls 3. This one was a lot less painful than the original, probably because of all the practice we had getting here in the first place. The rules are similar to last time. We still can't die, use item duplication glitches, and since Dark Souls 3 has no mandatory deaths, we won't be using any skips either. The main menu will still be our best friend, however, especially in dealing with gravity, but beyond that we'll be playing through normally. Oh, almost forgot again. In any challenge I do, we'll only summon if a mandatory boss is completely invulnerable to damage I'm allowed to do. Otherwise, no summons allowed. Additionally, I did install a couple of mods to make the game work in ultra-wide and at a slightly higher frame rate, but nothing that affects the actual gameplay, just things to make it a proper PC experience. Rules out of the way, we'll be using the Warrior again, but since Dark Souls 3 has no Master Key, we'll instead take the Life Ring as our starting gift, since more health is always useful. Beyond that, we can actually save the appearance of Undying here, which made it super fast to reset failed runs. Once we gain control of our character, the first thing I do is unequip the starting shield and grab the Ashen Estus Flask. These hollows all die in one hit, so less than a minute in, we're already at the first bonfire. We can't do anything with it, so we continue through, grabbing the Titanite shard on top of this tomb, as well as a few firebombs, before moving on to Irithyll Gundyr. Funnily enough, it was only while doing this challenge that I realized that was an I, not an L. After removing the coiled sword from his gut, I start wailing on him with the buff from our axe active for a bit of extra damage. I get greedy here a couple of times, but when he gets into phase 2 and this goo monster pops out of him, it's as easy as can be. With a couple more swings, his poise breaks, then I dodge his attack and put him out of his misery. Three minutes in, our first boss is down, and we can make our way into Firelink Shrine after gathering the embers outside. Before going down to meet the Firekeeper, let's get some early resources. By jumping off this tree, we can land on this part of the roof. Up here, we can grab some Homeward Bones, trade a Firebomb with Pickle Pea for a large Titanite shard, grab this Estus shard, and then drop behind this illusory wall to get the coveted Silver Serpent Ring. Thank you, Miyazaki, for never removing this, even though it's been here since launch. Equipment acquired, I drop down and talk to Andre to strengthen our flask, and turn that blue one into a regular Estus since we aren't going to be casting in this run. Then I sell the extra items I don't need at the Shrine Maiden, and use our souls at the Firekeeper to get our dex to 13 and strength to 18. We'll need the 13 dex to wield our weapon of choice, and Dark Souls 3 has more weapon infusions than the original. I'm going to make the Claymore heavy for this run, which means we'll only need strength for scaling. Preparation done, we make our way to the high wall of Lothric, quickly cutting our way through the hollows, particularly this yelling bastard who would otherwise wake up everyone else, and his twin upstairs. We then drop down to get our hands on some lightning pine resin, which will prove very helpful later on. I then clear the room of enemies, and we can make our way further down. Only two things between us and the Claymore. This guy with the shield, and some dragonfire that can kill us if we're not careful. Luckily this time all goes well, and now we've got the Claymore. I don't know why the dragon took so long to roast it downstairs, but now we can move forward to kill a couple more hollows, and our first Lothric Knight. I remember these bastards giving me so much trouble when I first played Dark Souls 3, but now with the Claymore, they're hardly a threat. With that done, we'll dodge this thief, grab some firebombs to use here in a moment, and grab the extra Titanite shard in this corner before resting at the bonfire and returning not to Firelink, but to Cemetery of Ash. Back in this corner, there's the big brother of all the Titanite lizards we've bullied over the years. It only takes about 4 quick hits to stagger him, and the damage while he's staggered is amazing. After the first hit, I do get a bit cocky, and he brings me down to 1 hit range, but I managed to pull back and heal before finishing him off and using a Homeward Bone back to Firelink. It's such a quality of life improvement that you can just select Shrine Bonfire now, rather than just being sent to the last bonfire you rested at. Back at Firelink, I upgrade my sword to +1, sell all the extra stuff we've gathered, and leveled up some more before going back to the high wall. The thief goes down in a single hit, and we kill the knight again, this time not taking any damage. And, luckily, he drops what I was hoping for, an extra Titanite shard. That'll definitely make things easier, since the guaranteed way to get the 4 shards for +2 before Vordt involves killing these goo monsters like what popped out of Old Gundy. Thankfully, they stagger really easily to firebombs, providing plenty of openings to finish it off with the Claymore. There are 2 enemies in the high wall who spawn the goo monsters, and if you let them spawn the first time you kill it, you get a guaranteed Titanite shard drop without any RNG. Combine that with the 3 that are resting on the ground and the 1 from the cemetery, that gives you just enough to get 1 weapon up to +2 guaranteed. However, since we got a lucky drop from that Lothric Knight, we can skip one of the goo monsters, which is quite a bit of safety that can't be overestimated in a deathless run. Explanation done, let's make our way forward. In this little balcony thing, there are a couple of thief hollows to kill, but more importantly, the second of the 3 shards on the ground. After killing this knight, despite how much he wanted to hold on to that last little bit of health, we get a couple pieces of the Lothric set and make our way through here, killing everything in our way and grabbing an Estus shard, and the last of our Titanite shards needed for +2. So with everything we need acquired, I drop down here, killing this hollow with a plunging attack. Unfortunately, I aggro this winged knight in doing so. He manages to nick me with his spin to win attack before I can escape. After gathering some more equipment, I clear out the Lothric Knights guarding this chapel. While the 3 in red weren't worth mentioning, the guy with the blue cloak was a touch tankier than them. He nearly kills me, but luckily chose to attack only twice instead of 3 times. I fall back to have a sip of Estus, and then punish him when he tries to close in for a stabbing attack. I forget to talk to Emma for the banner, and make my way to the shortcut back to the high wall bonfire, grabbing the green blossoms in the corner before getting on the lift. From here it's just a matter of killing the large hollows and their dog. Or it would be if I didn't remember I'm a greedy bastard, and hit the second goo monster with a black firebomb and a couple of regulars to get a good chunk of souls, an extra Titanite shard, and some more ember. While I did this here, if you're doing this run and already have enough Titanite for +2, I would not recommend doing this. Especially in the confined arena up here, this thing can very easily kill you. While we can't use the embers, as they aren't usable if you're already in an embered state, you can sell them for a decent chunk of souls, which will help us buy other materials we can use, as well as additional levels throughout the run. Titanite and souls acquired, we return to Firelink, do the usual inventory clear, equipment upgrade, and leveling before going back to the wall and remembering that we didn't speak to Emma. I kill all these Lothric Knights again and actually talk to her. She gives us the Way of Blue Covenant item and the flag we'll need to get to the next segment of the game after we kill Vordt. Speaking of Vordt, he's easy. Like, really easy. I pop a green blossom before spawning him in at the gate and just look at this. I get hit at the start, but afterwards I pretty much just wail on him with R1. I dodge his charges when he enters phase 2, and he doesn't even manage to get off his breath attack. Vordt out of the way, we make our way to the Undead settlement, killing the hunting dogs and, you know, I've never actually looked up what these particular guys are called. Ah, Worker Hollows. Thank you, Wiki. Anyways, with him out of the way, I actually remember to go say hi to Yule. While we can't actually do his quest line as that requires multiple deaths, we can at least get the first free level next time we're back at Firelink. Before we go back there, let's clear out this village center, killing the hollows in the back before the evangelist, and gathering all the soul items, Titanite shards, and the Estus shard in this main area, before dropping down this hole to get some tasty Estus soup to top off our health, without using any flasks. After that, we kill this flamberge wielding thrall and drop down to grab a Titanite shard, and run past the bonfire without using it since we're at full flasks and almost full health. I then run to the giant friend tower, dodging the enemies who try their damnedest to kill me, and use our first main menu to reset their aggro while opening the door. Oh hi Sigurd, look forward to working with you a grand total of once, and then forgetting you exist. Friendship with the giant acquired, I decide to get greedy again and go for an early demon kill with Sigurd. Usually I do this after getting the sword to +3, but decided it'd be fine. And even though Sigurd got stuck on the level geometry and did this stance while I fought the demon, I quickly bring it down, even if I did get hit by this ground slam with the axe. Demon out of the way, I gather the supplies around the area, including some human pine resin which won't come in handy until much later. I then use an alluring skull to distract these 2 evangelists, and run past to grab Flynn's ring, before dropping down to get one of the major rings for our build, the Chloranthy ring, which gives a nice boost to our stamina regen. After that, the only remaining jobs in the Undead settlement are to open the shortcut into the sewer past these rats, kill Holy Knight Hodrick when he invades, grab some of the Titanite we need, and then in the graveyard get all the items, including an Undead Bone Shard to improve our flask and the Mortician's Ashes. That done, I warp back to Firelink, give the ashes to the Shrine Maiden, sell everything I won't be using for the rest of the run except for the branch from Giant Friend, level up, and then go kill the Uchigatana guy. He does almost kill me, but we have just enough HP. Thank you, Life Ring. Once he's down, I grab another level from the Firekeeper and upgrade our flask at both Andre for more charges and the Bonfire for more healing per charge. Back at the Undead settlement. Oh. I forgot to buy the key from the Shrine Maiden. The key that was the whole reason we grabbed the Mortician's Ashes. 1 second. I grabbed the key, and a torch that will come in handy when dealing with the leech enemies at the Cathedral of the Deep, and remember that we picked Yol up for another level. Now that we actually have everything taken care of, I make my way to the gate in the sewer and run past all the enemies and grab the items down here, before killing this Titanite Lizard for the heavy gem, and grab the last 2 Titanite we need to get our swords +3. I also free the Miracle Merchant because I feel bad for her, then take the elevator down to kill this Outrider Knight, and rest at the bonfire on the Road of Sacrifice to return to Firelink and upgrade. The road itself isn't that interesting, pretty much a straight line of murdering these things until we reach the Crucifixion Woods. Once there, we hug the right side to get inside this building and acquire the Farron coal, which we need to make our claymore heavy before running away from this Black Knight. They've gotten quite the buff since Dark Souls 1. Coal in hand, I grab the Grasscrest shield while trying not to get murdered by this giant crab, and of course an NPC invader decides to say hello. While Hazel isn't all that threatening, he does keep us from resting at the bonfire, and we're already kinda low on Estus. I fall back to the road on the hill, waiting for him to show his face so I can fight him 1 versus 1, without having to worry about any of the hollows in the region. Hi, Editing Albino here. I added this in because I just wanted to show exactly how long it took for him to find me. This is the wait at 4 times speed. While he takes forever to figure out how to get to me, when he does, I quickly make him regret his life choices. After that, I make my way to the next bonfire, grab an SS shard back here, and do another Firelink run of selling, upgrading, and leveling. I make my way towards the Crystal Stage, quickly murder Orbeck because he called me dumb, then reset at the bonfire because I've been playing poorly, before actually getting to the Crystal Sage. Before entering the arena, I apply some fire resin for extra damage, and some blue bug pellets to take less damage from his spell spam. The fight itself goes by quickly. With the buff from pellets, I can tank a hit from the Sage and one of his illusions without dropping below half health. When I finally get some hits in on the real one, he quickly dies, and I make my way to the Fallen Knight. God, he's got such a cool look. Can't wait to grab his set when we make our way to Farron Keep. Shame the armor doesn't make him a better fighter, though. I also kill this guy with the spider shield before sneaking past all of this, well except these 2 dogs who really wanted to die, and reach the Cathedral area. After grabbing the SS shard, I fight through these leech things. The 3rd one does land a couple of hits on me, but I remembered to buy a torch, which burns the residual leeches away, preventing a bleed proc. Before going to the Cathedral proper, I grab the Poison Bite ring in this corner. Then after running past all the enemies in the graveyard, I kill this Grim Reaper looking bastard, grab an Undead Bone Shard with some covering fire from Giant Friend, and cross the rooftops relatively unscathed. Relatively. These guys throwing the Undead Hunter Charms are rather annoying, but I managed to clear the area and open the way inside. This priest looking guy is kind enough to give us an extra SS charge before crossing this pathway guarded by a giant. I use the high ground to clear out the thralls before they can ambush me and go down. Oh hey, it's our first Mimic of the run. Was our first Mimic of the run. After killing a knight, Kirk still hasn't learned to leave me alone, and so I teach him the lesson again. At least we get some souls and SS charges from him. I then go to the giant who... Oh god, is he standing in a pool of his own waste? Gross, but he drops a large Titanite shard, 1 of 3 we can get this early in the run. I then go to his twin, and though it has a bunch of slime monsters around, he's not too much of a threat. He even helps us kill some of them with his stomp attack. And I'm sorry, what is this thing? It's not a threat, it just... Ew. This cathedral is probably the most disgusting area in the game. Nastiness aside, we've been breezing through here, so rather than going back to upgrade, I make my way to the Deacon's boss room. I remove my helmet to have enough equip load to mid-roll while using Lloyd's sword ring to do more damage while at full health, as I should less one-shot all the smaller deacons. When the Pope shows up, I get greedy and don't properly manage my stamina, but with a big sword you don't have to play all that well to put this boss down, acquiring both the doll and soul of the deacon. With everything gathered from here and the boss defeated, I warp back to Firelink 4, say it with me, another round of upgrading, selling, and leveling. With the cathedral cleared in one go, we make our way back to the Crucifixion Woods and towards the Farron Keep. First grabbing the Fallen Knight set because Fashion Souls is the true endgame. Then use this ladder here to have the two NPCs hop down to their demise. Even if they did land a couple of blows on me in the process, this is the safest way to get rid of them. At the bottom of the ladder, I equip my most poison resistant equipment, acquire the face mask for even more poison resistance, and start running through the swamp. I grab an Estus shard before going and knocking out the first two fires. From the second bonfire, I grab the undead bone shard that's guarded by these leeches, and make my way up this ladder to the top of the bridge. While we could probably safely kill Asylum Demon 4.0, we haven't grabbed the Transposing Guild since we skipped the Curse Rod Greatwood, so they wouldn't give us anything worth the danger. Rather, we're coming up here to get some more large Titanite from these crystal lizards, and some items we can sell too. With that done, it's back down to try and get to the last fire without dying. Getting to it is by far the most dangerous point of the entire run so far. Why, you ask? Because of these big bastards. They hit like trucks as they land their attacks, fire multiple homing projectiles, and if you rush, you'll have to deal with multiple of them. I take my time with that first one, who you can sometimes dodge, but this one pretty much just camps the last fire. I managed to kill them fairly easily this time, and extinguished the last fire to open the way to the Abyss Watchers, but they ended several early attempts. Next, I head down the back way to kill Hazel again, well, after he figures out how to find me. He's slow, but drops nearly 10,000 souls here, which we can use to get better prepared for the Abyss Watchers. With 10 charges of our flask at +3, we sneak past the Dark Race, run to the door while avoiding these guys from the DLC in Dark Souls 1, and return to menu while opening the door to reset aggro, just like at the Giant Friend Tower. While we did take a tiny bit of damage on the way, we can easily top off our health to get our ring effect back up, and then use a gold pine resin to add lightning to our sword, which the Watchers are weak to. I also pop a green blossom for less downtime before starting the fight. I'm not able to get the Abyss Watchers into phase 2 before the second one spawns in, but luckily I'm able to avoid damage long enough for our red-eyed friend to distract his brothers, providing the opening I need to clear out that first health bar. In phase 2, he lands a couple hits before I manage a backstab, and shortly after, finish him off. First Lord Ascender down, 3 to go. But, before any of the other lords, we have to traverse the catacombs. I navigate down the side, kill this guy with the wizard hat, and watch as this bone sphere explodes into an undead bone shard. Next is a matter of running past more of the enemies, using this triple flame arrow trap to hit anything that might be following us, before dealing with these two. Luckily, you only have to kill them once, but I was definitely nervous here. Enemies down, we can grab an Ember and our 4th large Titanite shard, so we can finally get our Claymore to +5. And it's just in time too, since this asshole can easily kill me in a couple of hits. Well, assuming he gets a chance to attack in the first place. After that, we cross the bridge, cutting it behind us to block off the horde of skeletons, and go to get a drink, which High Lord Wolnir takes offense to, and drags us into the void. Wolnir is an interesting boss for a deathless run. Not because he's got a super challenging moveset, but rather this fog. It will drain your health incredibly fast, even with well set up defenses, but that's pretty much the only threat he has. If you can actually land a few good hits on his bracelets without going in it, he's a joke like Capra. In this particular fight, he did a pretty good job of keeping his wrist safe, but it only takes a couple of minutes to put him down once and for all, and we're to probably the prettiest part of the whole game. I love the cold, and this is like a winter wonderland brightly lit by a giant moon. If I had to choose one city to live in from any FromSoft game, it'd probably be Irithyll. Well, assuming it's in peace times and they don't have any of these gaping doggos. Not sure why From thought it would be a good idea to combine the Gaping Dragon and Sif, but they did. Oh well, we're just a side, they're an easy enough enemy, and we get to the next bonfire. Going through Irithyll is interesting. One-on-one, these Pontiff Knights aren't too bad, but the game tries its damnedest to make it at least a 2 versus 1, which is a lot more dangerous. But, with them out of the way, we grab some items from his courtyard and flee as these fire witches and their friends try to stunlock us. When I get to the temple, one of the Pontiff Knights thought it would be a good idea to chase me all this way on their own. It doesn't go well for them, and we grab the next undead bone shard from behind this tombstone, before gathering the items down here, especially all of the green blossoms, before moving forward. Fun fact, because we killed the Gaping Doggo on the bridge, it isn't around to drop down and attack us down here, making this section a lot safer. Another interesting detail I figured out in the failed attempts at this run. Items acquired though, we continue into the dungeons, clearing out the Fire Witch and other mobs before facing Alva. She lands a couple of big hits, but at this point I've played enough Dark Souls 3 that she doesn't really stand a chance. Now it's time for the dungeons, and a major annoyance. These jailers. They have an attack that temporarily reduces your maximum HP. Apparently it fires a large number of invisible projectiles and can't kill you, but can rapidly reduce you down to the point where anything else can one-shot you. They also have a very poorly telegraphed grab attack that does massive amounts of damage, though I don't think they ever landed it on me this run. Luckily, the jailers are the only major threat in the dungeons, and there's quite a bit of good loot in here. Not only do we get the remaining Titanite shards to get our Claymore to +6, down here we can also get 2 Titanite chunks, pushing it up to +7. We'll also get another Estus shard, held by the second Mimic of the run, giving us 11 charges of the flask at +5 when we make our next trip back to Firelink Shrine. But before then, let's sneak past this horde of jailers, grab the Xanthus Ashes, and return to menu to avoid the jailer who actually saw us. I top off my HP and run into the profane capital, dodge this gargoyle, and grab the Undead Bone Shard to boost our flask to +6, finally making that Firelink run before heading to Yhorm. For those of you who don't know, Yhorm is the gimmick boss of this game. I understand in Demon Souls there was the Dragon God, in Dark Souls 1 you had Bed of Gimmicks, and here you have Yhorm. Luckily he's far less annoying than Bed of Gimmicks, and it's actually pretty fun. Rather than bashing away his ankles like we normally do with giants, we have to run back to his throne and grab the Storm Ruler sword. Once we have that equipped, it's a matter of dodging through his attacks and charging up the weapon art of the Storm Ruler. Luckily we don't instantly lose charge progress if we dodge, and can resume charging for pretty much the same point until we get the full charge. Then, by light attacking while holding the weapon art button, we can release a Blade of Wind which takes out a good chunk of Yhorm's health. Do that 5 times and he'll go down. 2 lords dead, 2 to go. After making our traditional Firelink stop, it's back to the distant Manor Bonfire, from which we'll go through this area with... You know what? I'm not even going to question anymore. Let's just move past them and fight the Silver Knight. Though I nearly died to this first one, at the top of the stairs I remember Obi-Wan's wisdom from Revenge of the Sith and kill him with the high ground. I then punish his friends too, earning the Leo Ring, Smo's Hammer, and most importantly, a Divine Blessing. While we may not need it, having a full heal in our pocket is a nice insurance policy. Night's dealt with, I fight the dogs and get invaded by the Londo Paleshade, who I quickly inform of his mistake, and... do those dogs have people faces? I wonder if after...
Redacted.
Got criticized for having too many dudes in armor, they decided to go full weird with the enemy designs of this one. Whatever the reason, it's definitely interesting. Following the human dogs, we open up a shortcut back to the Church of Yorshka, and make an upgrade run before going to fight Pontiff Sullivan, and... damn, that is an aesthetic. Might just be my love of Darth Revan, but the red and purple blade look is just so cool. Oh yeah, boss fight. Deathless run. This fight I play sloppy, messing up so many dodges, but I always manage to pull back and heal before he can kill me. I finally get my act together and put both Sullivan and his shade down. With that interest done, it's time to deal with some NPCs that want to be D&D wizards with how much they spam Fireball, and these 2 members of the Night's Watch. I then get rid of this illusory wall, and go down a long ladder into the sub-basement where there is not 1, but 2 gaping doggos. And though I haven't shown my failed attempt, this fight killed several of them before I mastered the attack pattern. I knocked the first one down before going to aggro the second and quickly kill it, if sloppily. With both dead, we get the Ring of Favor. It's the FAP ring from the first game after a couple of nerfs, but still very worthwhile. With that acquired, I do a Firelink run since we have a couple souls, before running past a bunch of Silver Knights with great bows and getting back to Anor Londo. God, it looks so good, even better than the Knight version in the original. Distractions aside, I run past the corpse of Giant Friend from Dark Souls 1 and make my way down to the Grand Hall that leads to Aldrich's arena, where I grab an Essus shard, open the main doors, and warp back to Firelink to prepare for Aldrich. And...
my, the coal of that peaceable giant. Seems like ages passed. I imagine his passing was long ago.
Damn it, Andre. Stop making me feel emotions talking about the Giant Smith dying in between games. Oh well. Aldrich time. Well, after killing these Silver Knights without taking any hits. Don't want anyone chasing us as we make our way to the arena. I sneak around the right side of the room to avoid getting hit by any of the mobs, and reset their aggro at the fog wall. Enemies once again ignorant of my location, I switch to Lloyd's Sword Ring, put Black Pine Resin on my hotbar, and use it to buff my claymore with fire, before charging in to fight Aldrich. Aldrich is both an easy and incredibly difficult boss depending on which moves he decides to use. For example, in a previous run he decided to spam this arrow rain attack so many times that in the cutscene after killing him, I died to the residual arrows. But this time he was nice, and I quickly put him in the grave where he belongs, dodging most of his spells, and generally predicting where he's going to pop up after he teleports away. Three lords down, one to go, and Emma is even kind enough to warp us to the next boss arena. So first I make a quick upgrade run, as well as a chance to refill our supplies. Supplies restored, it's time for Dancer, and those human pine resins we grabbed earlier. She's pretty weak to dark damage, and as long as you're cautious, dodging her more area of effect attacks, she's pretty easy to punish. While we usually only get 1 or 2 hits in per opening, at the end I somehow managed to avoid her attack and land a 5-hit combo to finish her off. With the Dancer down, the path to Aldrich Castle is open. But first, let's kill this guy and make a brief stop in the Consumed King's Garden to get an Estus Shard and another Titanite chunk. Now that we've got those, we'll fight through the guards, rest at the next bonfire, before cutting through more guards in a hollow ambush while gathering several extra Titanite chunks. And then this big guy decides to hit us with a jumping attack, while its friends try to hit us with undead hunter charms to stop us from healing. So to avoid dealing with that combination of nonsense, I retreat to kill the big guy, before clearing out the rest of the enemies, and make another upgrade run from the Dragon Barracks bonfire. After upgrading, I drop down here to get one of the final undead bone shards, and kill the hollows with the goo monsters inside them before they can fully spawn. Then I make my way back around to drop from the other side of the bridge to progress. Right here is a bit annoying, as not only do we have big hollows to deal with, there's this one spamming hunter charms at us that we can't reach yet. Luckily I managed to avoid that long enough to get the kills, and run into this room with black firebomb throwing hollows. But fortunately for them, I can easily tank 1 or 3 of the bombs, while they can't tank a claymore to the face. I gather a bunch of upgrade materials, kill another mimic, and then make my way to kill the puzz of man that is animating the first of the 2 dragons. I retreat to avoid the almost unavoidable instant death that comes when it first spawns, then try and get into the doorway, because if you position yourself just right, you can avoid most, if not all, of its attacks. Sadly that doesn't pan out, and I have to fight it normally, and even almost get cursed before retreating out here and letting the curse slowly go down. Last thing we need this late is to get an instant death from a mini-boss. Luckily, the one black firebomb I had was enough to kill it, removing one of the dragons. I open the gates the dragons were guarding and do an upgrade run before making my way to deal with the second dragon. I almost die on the drop, but after taking a quick break to heal, I get behind the pus, and while I can't really see what's going on, it can't consistently hit me while I can bash away at it until it dies. After a quick rest, it's time to fight the Dragon Slayer armor. This fight can be a mixed bag, and to start made it seem very much like it was going to be a very rough experience. After recovering from a few early failed dodges, it's the Dragon Slayer armor who has a bad time. Though he lands a decent few hits while defending his last bit of health, and I nearly die to getting stuck on this well, I manage to heal, and then lose the health again to his wind attack, which can apparently go through the well. Luckily, I had put enough distance between me and the armor, and can heal back to full before he can close the distance, and then I put him down. I quickly grab the new bonfire for later, and make my way through the archives, running past everything until I reach this lever, which will open the path to our Titanite slab. I then make my way forward through to the shortcut back to the start, though I nearly die to the sheer number of enemies here, and elect to main menu when a thrall grabs me. Now that the path is less obstructed, I make my way to the shortcut and grab the slab, before returning to Firelink to bring our claymore to +10, and spend all the souls we can. With the blade upgraded, I go through the rest of the archives, and dispatch the NPC trio here, before going up to the last segment of the roofs, to grab the final flask upgrade for the run. While we could get a 15th charge and bring it up to +10, that would involve a lot of danger that just isn't worthwhile in a deathless run. I make my way through the wall of defenders, and to this elevator at the top. At the bottom of the lift, we make a penultimate upgrade run, before going to fight the Twin Princes. Upgrades applied, we have a +10 claymore, as well as 14 charges of a +8 flask for the last 2 fights. First is the Twin Princes, and I have to say, I was in the zone for phase 1. With lightning resin to boost damage, I put him down without even getting hit. I do mess up the first few hits of phase 2, but overall is going smoothly. I tank a hit to reapply lightning resin, and use a 5th flask to recover, then take a few more hits that I have to heal, before knocking Lorien down a second time, and I finish off Lothric as he tries to resurrect his brother. 4 lords down, 1 battle between us and victory. I get a couple more levels, forget that I need to place the ashes of lords before we can return to the kiln, then correct that mistake before talking with the Firekeeper. I run through a dark Firelink shrine, get teleported by the spawn fire, and switch from lightning resin to dark on our hotbar as we make our way to the final fight. I pop my only blooming green blossom and use a resin before charging in to face the Soul of Cinder. He has multiple forms, and he's killed me more than a few times in the various attempts at this run, but now, after who knows how many hours, I've developed my skills far enough. He lands a good few hits, but I managed to get him into phase 2 with 10 flasks left. He lands a stabbing down attack early, forcing me to use 2 charges of Estus, but this form is pretty much Gwen 2.0. I dodge most of his attacks, and I'm at full health when he launches one final attack into the air. I cut him down as a rain of lightning bolts hit me. Unfortunately for the Soul of Cinder, I have enough health to survive its desperate final blow and can leap to flame, as it doesn't seem to be fatal this time around. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the run. Dark Souls 3 was not nearly as difficult to get that first deathless as Dark Souls 1 was. Now, that is probably because of how much better I've gotten by doing the Dark Souls 1 run, but I also think a big part of it was changing up my attempt methods. Rather than resetting the game on my first death every time, I played all the way to the end, counting my deaths and working the number down. It also helped that 3 is a lot more linear in its design than 1. The world is less sprawling and a lot more linear with only a few branches. The only splits in routing I've caught are, do you go to Abyss Watchers or Deacons first, and if you go for Aldrich or Yhorm. While you can also go towards Twin Princes first by killing Emma and fighting Dancer early, the entrance to the Archives is locked until the other 3 lords are dead. And, frankly, I love that about this game. I've done some attempts at an Elden Ring Deathless run, and what always killed it for me was the extended preparation phase where death was still very possible. Spending an hour and a half roaming the lands between before fighting your first actual boss is a very demoralizing prospect compared to this run, where we've got our first boss kill in less than 5 minutes. And while it's closer to 30 minutes in for the second, it's all actively working towards it, not going into Timbuktu to grab a few upgrade materials. And that amount of preparation makes the idea of an Elden Ring Deathless like we've done with Dark Souls 1 and 3 not appealing to me. If I were to do one of those, rather than taking a run I'd play just for fun, like I have with these, I'd have to do a much more tutorialized version. A run someone else made that I just executed. And that sounds like a lot less fun for everyone. So what's that mean for future content? While I won't be doing an Elden Ring without dying, I will make content on Elden Ring. Eventually. My next challenge is going to be Dark Souls without healing, after that we'll have Dark Souls 3 without healing, and then we'll do Elden Ring without healing. And lastly, Shadow of the Erdtree without healing. And each one will be all bosses. For Dark Souls 1 and 3, that will include the DLC. Shadow is split off because I haven't actually finished it yet. That run will be the first time I beat the final boss. These videos won't be as quick to come out as the Without Dying videos, as I completed both runs before uploading the Dark Souls 1 video. But that doesn't mean I'm going to disappear under a rock until they're done. The day this video drops at 2 p.m. US Western, 4 p.m. Eastern, I'll be doing a live stream where I try to do another deathless run of Dark Souls 3 live, and following that, I'll be streaming my progress through the Without Healing videos live right here on YouTube. Thank you all again for watching, and I hope to catch you for both the streams and the edited videos when I finish the runs. Until then, please like, comment, subscribe, and I've been informed that apparently the bell thing gives you a better chance of getting informed when I drop a video or start a stream, so be sure to press that too. Until next time.